were
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. You may lower your hands for now. I just wanted to verify that you're all real humans and not generated by AI. All right. So it's been a while for me. It's been a while in Toastmasters, a long, long time, and I really miss Toastmasters. And I must say that I miss all the rituals that you go through in meetings. Just a few months after joining Toastmasters, I got so hooked on all the rituals. I didn't realize that until one night I was shaken off my sleep by my wife. She said, "Wake up, wake up." So I said, "What's the matter, honey?" She said, "I can't get any sleep." I said, "Why not?" She said, "You've been clapping all night." So then she added, "And this is not the first time." Okay, it's not the first. So you can really see how much influence Toastmasters had over us, over our lives. And I've noticed, by the way, that laughter comes in stages. You see, in a big event, when you have a live audience, there are those who get the joke immediately and start laughing. And there are those who get it like 2 to 3 minutes later and start laughing. Okay. And there are those who don't get it at all, but laugh anyway. And I love this kind of a crowd. Actually, they make me feel good on stage. But it tells you also that laughter is contagious, and that's what you see in good humorous speeches. Okay, let's get serious, shall we? Uh, Today I'll be sharing with you my experience with humor, what it is, how it works, and how to make it effective. Now, before I do that, I think I need to share my slides, if you can allow me. Okay, let's get there. Let's see if I'm there. Share. What do you see? You see my slides?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
But if you can
Okay.
just put it on
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah, I will do that. Is that okay now?
yes.
Yes? Yes. All right. So I just want to start at the beginning. There's something I really need to clear off your head at the beginning. Uh, there is a myth about telling humor on the stage that says only those who are naturally funny can say funny things. I keep hearing this a lot. And I keep hearing some speakers say, "I cannot tell jokes," or "humor is not in me." Or some would tell me, "Abandi, you were born with a funny bone." Or someone would say, "Abandi, you're naturally funny." And I say, "No, no, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I've had some horrible experiences giving humorous speeches. Actually, on my first attempt at humor many years ago, no one laughed the entire 7-minute speech. No one. Well, in fairness to me, there was one who sat in the back and he kept laughing throughout the speech. I found out later he was reading jokes on his mobile. So, so we're not really born laughing, are we? Are we? No, we're not born laughing. If we were, or if you were born laughing, then they must have given you a good dose of laughing gas. In fact, we just get a slap on our behind, and we start crying. So please, abolish this myth from your mind totally. It is true, by the way. It is true that some people may be naturally funny, but that doesn't mean that those who aren't can't make people laugh. No, humor is like any other skill. It can be learned by anyone. And it's easy once we understand how humor works. Now, Let me just tease you a little bit. Okay, this is like testing your sense of humor. There are 5 statements in here. I want you just to take a look at them, okay, and say, just put a check mark in your head or over that line if it applies to you. You know, just yeah, I got this, number one. I got this. I got this. No, I don't have this. I got this. So let's see how much you, where do you score. Just this is more of teasing you more than anything else. Can you just spend like a couple of seconds, well, a few seconds, and let's see how you fare. All right. Okay, let me just explain about the last one, because someone comes to you, maybe your name is Susan. Hey, Susan, that was really, really funny. And by the way, I don't know anybody who name of the name of Susan. Okay, don't get me in trouble. You know, wives have ears. All right. Okay. Let's see how you fared. Okay, if you got like 5 out of 5, I would say, wow, really wow. If you got 5 out of 5, really wow, you have a humor running in your blood, and you've got what it takes to give a humorous speech. If you got like a 3 to 4, you're there. You're pretty good. You just need to learn a few tricks and more hone your skills. But if you got 1 to 2, you're okay. Don't lose hope. You can befriend one of those who scored 5, for example. Okay. Uh, but if you got a 0, no, don't go kill yourself. Okay, because I tell you what, I have good news for you. In a funeral, you will be the best person to give the eulogy. I'm just joking. But seriously, you too can learn how to be funny on stage. It may take you longer though, but it's okay. You can learn. It's a process that I want to go with you through it right now. So again, let's go back to being serious. What I am about to share with you this evening is something simple but powerful. Powerful. If you grasp it, you will start to make headways towards being a humorous speaker. So, what is the Humor RX? I keep saying that, of course, the title of the book is The Humor RX for Speakers. What is the Humor RX? Excuse me. It is a basic process. It is basic but powerful prescription to tell humor from the stage, and it is a process. And this process is fed by some forms of humor on one side, and on the other side, it is supported by some elements that make humor powerful and effective. It is highly important that you understand this process. Now, let's understand humor more. I want to make you understand like the basics of humor. The starting point for you as a speaker is to understand humor itself. And I believe the lifeblood of humor can be summed up in 3 basic forms or definitions. The first one is mismatch. See, humor is only nothing but a trick played on the mind. You see, the human brain organizes information into patterns. Okay, when we hear something that does not match the pattern we have stored in our mind, we just get a shock, and this shock happens because there is a mismatch between what we expect and what we experience. Let me just give you an example. I used to be fascinated by designer handbags. You know, I bought several of them. Of course, not for me. You know, for who? And I believe even the ladies here in the room, probably they share the same fascination with me. And you love them. You love them. You would pay a fortune to get one. Why? Because you trust their quality and authenticity. And you trust the brand name. You trust names like Louis Vuitton, don't you? Yeah, you trust Gucci, you trust Fendi, you trust Abendi. Well, I'm still working on that brand. It's going to take time. But you see here, the brain has already classified designer names and associated them with handbags. When out of the blue you hear the name Abendi, you say, wait a minute. I don't have Abendi stored as a brand name. Well, maybe as a skinny, frail guy, but yes. But so your mental pattern was actually disturbed. It was broken. There was a mismatch. You expected a brand name, but you ended up with a worthless Abendi. When your expectation is crushed, you get a shock and you laugh. That's one form or definition of a humor. The second one, which is used extensively in to stimulate laughter, and that's exaggeration. And if you watch comedy sitcoms, you will see plenty of it in there. So many situations that are so much exaggerated. So, what is exaggeration? Exaggeration, it is when you take a fact or a thought, or an idea, or even half a thought, half a fact, and you just stretch it way, way out of proportion, sometimes even beyond belief, beyond imagination, actually. So, as you can tell from my bony face, well, not just the face, it looks like I have a skinny build, and I struggle with it, especially on windy days, okay? And we have lots of days here in Saudi where the weather is windy. It was extremely windy a few days ago, and I was struggling to walk one step forward, one step backward, one step forward, one step backward. And I was still inside the house. Here, in this story, I take a truth about myself and I stretch it beyond belief. It is true that I am skinny. I have a skinny build. It is true. And it is true, by the way, that it is difficult sometimes for me to walk on windy days. But inside the house, that is the exaggerated part. So if one day you happen to see me, walking on a windy day, just come hold my hand, all right? Will you? And by the way, you will see this story in the video that we will show in a little bit. The story, I think the story is in this video. So if you have a thought, a truth, a part of a truth, ask yourself a couple of questions. What happens if I exaggerate it? And how can I exaggerate it? The minute you think this way, ideas will just start creeping into your mind. This is how you work your imagination into exaggerating things. But I would say the peak of humor, the peak of all humor, is when you have a clever mixture of the aha and the ha-ha. You see, the aha is the surprise side, and the ha-ha is the funny bit. Some say that humor is surprise, and I myself, I think this is only partly true, because if it is not combined with a funny twist, laughter will not come out as strong. It will not come out as strong. In the early 2000s, I was building a house here in Saudi, and when you build a house, you borrow a lot of money from all over, and you become full of debts. And I was borrowing from family, from friends, from banks, from even people in the streets. Okay, even beggars in the street. Okay, and naturally I could not pay back the people, and they were chasing me, but I was hiding away from all creditors, until one day a friend of mine, one of those who I borrowed money from, he saw me in the mall, and he said, "Hey, Abdullah, he's found his treasure. So I couldn't hide. So he came to me and he said, "Listen, Abdullah, it's been like now 10 years since you borrowed from me that $10,000. How about if I meet you halfway? I'm ready to forget about half of what you owe me." I said, "Wonderful. I'm ready to forget the other half." So if you examine this story, when my friend when my friend I'm sorry, do I hear someone saying something?
No, I think somebody had just unmuted. Please continue.
Okay. So let me go back. If you examine the story I just told you, when my friend offered to give me a 50% discount on the loan, that was the aha. Wow, that was a surprise moment, right? Then came the aha, which is found in the twist embedded in the punchline. That twist, wonderful. I'm ready to forget the other half. You see how I twisted what he said into something funnier. This mixture, if delivered well, normally creates a burst of laughter. If you think of it, also, it is also disturbing a pattern in your head. You expected that my friend, oh, yeah, he's getting me 50% back. Yeah, well, so he's so nice. But that expectation just vanished in thin air. So there you have them, ladies and gentlemen, the three elements. According to yours truly, these are the three basic forms of humor: mismatch, exaggeration, and aha, aha. You will find that in most humorous stories, they would include one or a combination of these three forms. Of course, there are many other forms, and if we have time, we can cover some of them later in the presentation. But these, what I think, are the base of all humor. But if you've noticed also that while telling you those stories, I have followed a certain process to arrive to a laugh. I mean, if there was one, okay. So it is important to understand this process. As I mentioned, humor is a trick played on the mind. In order for me to play that trick well, I need first to set the audience up. Yeah, I need to take you with me for a ride in one direction. I will take you with me for a ride in one direction. Then all of a sudden, swiftly, and suddenly I switch direction and I make a sharp and a swift turn. This sharp turn is produced by the punchline, which triggers laughter. But the punchline, ladies and gentlemen, needs help. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just come. It needs help to be funny and successful. And it is normally preceded by what I call the nudge. The nudge. Okay. It is something that pushes the punchline. The nudge is the trigger that enables the punchline to be. It enables it to become, to come out. It is normally a short line or a phrase, sometimes just even a word, like Fendi in the handbag story. The nudge in the creditor story is the phrase, "I'm ready to forget half of what you owe me." Without it, the joke will not be born. So this is really important. So next time you develop a funny story, think about the elements in this process. Examine your story and see if you have followed that exact process. And try. I think we all have gone through trial and error. So we need to try and do some refinement all the time. So at some point in time, you will find that what really works is when you use like a combination of this process here. This process is very powerful. But how do we make it more powerful and effective? I will share with you 5 ways to do that. But before we do that, I would like to show you the video. I want to share with you a district winning speech. And I want you to pay attention to the forms of humor I used and how I delivered the story. You may even want to take some notes, and maybe when we come back to the question and answer later, you may have some questions. So at this point in time, I think I'll give the floor back to Meenakshi to show that video. And I guess I need to unshare.
Yes.
Yes, let me unshare. And for you now, go ahead.
Yeah. Is it visible, the screen?
To me, yes.
Yes, it is.
But the sound isn't there.
Sound was not visible, audible, you were saying?
And there was no sound, Meenakshi.
Meenakshi, should I share?
Just a second. Is the sound coming?
Video
No,
is not yet
video
on.
and audio, nothing is on.
Libby, you want to try?
Yeah. Is this audible?
Yes. Make it,
Sorry, what?
just make it full screen.
It is full screen. Is this better?
Yeah.
Abdullah Al-Abandi, Mission Impossible. Mission Impossible, Abdullah Al-Abandi.
Years ago, I had a dream to look one day like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Obviously, I'm still in the Pink Panther stage. Got us chair for Toastmaster and distinguished guests. Good evening. Good evening. Being skinny had bothered me for many years. When I was in college, I hated the swimming class. Every time people see me in my swimsuit, they start to count my ribs. And my best swim record was 5 meters. Then the teacher would jump in to save me. In fact, he saved me so many times that he decided to quit his job and work as a lifeguard. Years later, the first time time my wife saw me in our engagement day, she was shocked. She said, "You told me on the phone that you were so handsome. That you were so handsome that you had some full of cheeks." I said, "That was my 10-year vision." In fact, some friends prescribed marriage for me to gain weight and grow cheeks. I got married, all right, and whatever cheeks I had disappeared. Ironically, receiving those email advertisements that say, "Lose 10 pounds a week while you sleep." Can you imagine? If I did, in a few weeks, my wife would report me a missing person. I managed to stop those idiots from sending such emails. I sent them my swimsuit picture. I figured all I needed was a postcard. But being skinny really can make you so humiliated sometimes. You know, I tried to sign up once for the Ironman competition. This is not a joke. And the person at the registration desk, he examined me carefully. And then he looked at the person behind me, and then he shouted, "Next!" My kids sometimes to the zoo, so this is zoo sometimes. No, I like to help them feed the monkeys bananas. So one day I gave the monkey a banana. He gave me that seriously. Then he gave me back my banana. I always have windy days. Extremely windy the other day, and I was struggling to walk. One step forward, one step back. One step forward, one step back. And I was still inside the house. Even Toastmasters evaluate me with my skinny building. They would say, "Your introduction was flat, but it was weak." And there was no conclusion. I'm going to the gym to win. I went there the first time, and I could hear people, screaming and groaning. I said to myself, "This is not the exercise room. This must be the delivery room." So I looked around, and I saw all the machines were full of bulky, huge machines. I could not lift those weights. The trouble is, I could not remove them either. So I would go and stare at each machine for 10 seconds. And that would count as 10 repetitions for me. But what really bothers me is those people who look like Hulk Hogan. They have no appreciation for skinny people like me. They leave all the weights on the machines. But sometimes I have to save my face. I would go and stand next to this chest press machine, full of heavy loads, all the weights in the world. And then some big guy would come and ask me, "Are you using this machine?" I said, "No, I just finished." I saw this bar lying on the floor. Again, it was full of weights. So the instructor, he was watching me, and he came forward and he said, "Would you like me to remove some of the weights?" I said, "What do you mean, son?" "Remove all the barriers." You can get rid of the timers here. So there I was against this empty bar, and I struggled to lift it on my shoulders, finally. Then my knees were and I realized there was absolutely nothing for me to lift. I could lift over there. I went to the instructor and I asked him, excuse me, is there a section here for children? So I decided enough of this bodybuilding, enough. I tried to gain weight, I tried, at work I mentioned chocolate, nuts, cookies, and you name it. And I'm even nice enough to share it with my secretary. I'm not gaining weight, she is. So ladies and gentlemen, I decided to accept my body just as it is. I can help you with being thin, I know the secrets. I know the secrets. Do you want to know how? Yes! The answer is inside. I want to help you to be thin. Who wants to be thin? Everyone, please. Ladies, I'm not going to look. Go ahead. How about Ramanathan? Ramanathan? You want to? Okay, so it's the same with me, but it's on the opposite side. I decided to quit my 10-year vision and continue to be a member in the Pink Panther Club. Back to you.
All right. So can I go back and share my screen?
Yes, please.
Oops. Where are we? Oops, we're here. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, good. But I can't see you for some reason. Second. Hang on with me. 2 seconds. Oops. What am I doing? Okay, you're okay?
Yes.
It's
yes,
okay now?
yes.
All right, okay. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Some of you were not probably even born at that time, okay? But I want to come back, and I don't want to comment too much because I wanted you to grasp this humor thing and maybe come back with questions and answers. But certainly, even myself, when I see it now, I laugh at it. But there are 5 ways to make humor effective, okay? And I just wanted to pay attention to this because you probably now notice when I talk about these 5 ways to make humor effective, maybe you can go back and to the speech and say, yeah, these things were there. Okay, these are the setup, the punchline, the timing, audience, and also that self expression thing. The first, if you build a house, then you have a base, okay? And that base for a humor speech is the setup. The setup is the base for any funny story. Think of yourself as a magician, okay? You've got your toolbox to set up your audience towards a wow. A good setup will lead to a big laugh. And to be effective, the setup needs to be as short as possible. It needs to be as short as possible, organized, and unrevealing. Let me explain what I mean. You see, you can lose your audience if the setup is long and winding. See, a magician produces the trick fairly quickly, all right? So you need to do the same. Don't forget, in a humorous speech, you only got 7 minutes. And the more you put in some laugh lines in there, the better your score will be. So you can also lose, by the way, your audience. You can also lose them if the bits of information you're sharing are not organized in such a way, are not deliberately organized in a certain sequence. So if you say something between the nudge and the punchline, you could kill the punchline. So the sequence, for example, if you say Fendi, Gucci, Abendi, it may not work as good as Gucci, Fendi, Abendi. There is a sequence to that setup, okay, or to that joke. So you need to always think of how you organize your material logically. And the worst you can do, by the way, is to say something that would reveal or impact your punchline. Let's say that in the designer handbag story, I said, I know you don't trust my name, but you trust names like Louis Vuitton, don't you? You trust Gucci, you trust Fendi, you trust Abendi. Now, to me here, the impact of the punchline would be diluted because I have already gave you a hint to the punchline. I mentioned something about my name. In a way, I have revealed or leaked the punchline. Now, since we're talking about punchline, it is next. The punchline is the climax of the funny story. So it needs also to be short, maybe a word, a short phrase. It also needs to be very well placed. And normally it comes at the end of a joke or at the end of a story to be powerful. Yeah, keep it all the way until the end of the story. But it's extremely important also that your punchline is heard. That's one of the troubles. And sometimes I even have this trouble in the early days. Because if that punchline is, say, very funny, but it cannot be heard, maybe you lower your voice at the end of a punchline, it would just go in thin air. You will not see any laughter, even though it was a good and a great story, a great funny story. Unheard punchline means absence of laughter. So what you really need to do is to try to project your voice audibly and avoid dropping it at the end of a punchline. It would be also better if your punchline does that pattern breaking. You know, it breaks some kind of a pattern in the people's head. Because if you remember that the designer handbag story, I said Gucci, Fendi, Abendi. See, Gucci, Fendi, Abendi. See, this break in the pattern really gives rise to laughter also. But the most important thing about the punchline is you need to say it with a sense of closing. It's like a ta-da. This is it. I have arrived. Many speakers miss this and miss to pause for finality. Let me give you an example from one of my other speeches. In a speech about doctors, I came to a conclusion and said, doctors sometimes don't make any sense. So try to stay away from them. Take an apple a day. They say it keeps the doctor away. Myself, I take garlic. It keeps everyone away. That's what I mean by a sense of closing. The audience needs to know this is the punchline. I could have said, okay, it keeps the doctor away. Myself, I use garlic. It keeps everyone away. And people will sense that it has not yet arrived and that maybe your punchline is coming. Okay? So no, you need to really say it with a sense of finality. you have to close that punchline with a sense of finality. Okay, another way to make humor effective is timing. This is really crucial, very crucial. And timing is actually about your rhythm. Yeah, it's about your rhythm. What is it that you go over fairly quickly? What is it that you go over in a moderate speed? And what is it that you say slowly for impact? It's about building momentum. You know, when you deliver your humor, you need to build that momentum when you tell the story. And that includes, by the way, that includes what you accentuate and what you don't. And that's important sometimes. Sometimes even accentuating a certain word would give rise to a good punchline. But most importantly is when, where, and how long you pause. In comedy or in stand-up, they refer to the pause as beats, a beat. And the beat normally takes the length of saying the phrase 1001. So the pause or beat is needed before and after the punchline. Why I say this? Remember, I said wonderful, pause. I'm ready to forget the other half, pause. The reason to pause before the punchline is to ready the audience for the punchline. And the reason to pause after the punchline is to leave room for laughter, which is also highly important. And sometimes some speakers will just go along and continue to speak. That's sad because they have a good punchy line, and then it goes because they continue to speak. So by the way, sometimes you may need to pause for more than one beat. You know, I think in the garlic joke, in the actual speech, when I gave it, I paused longer. I paused maybe for 2 beats, maybe 3 beats. I don't remember exactly. But sometimes a pregnant pause gives even a deeper and a stronger punchline. And in many times, the difference between a weak and a powerful punchline is in the pause. And finally, no, not before, it's not finally. Next, I want to speak about the audience. What about the audience? You know, I was listening to a speaker once. He was from England, and he was talking to us about puns, or the play on words, puns, play on words. And we, as an audience, we were like Toastmasters, or not actually, we were not Toastmasters, we were speakers from Bahrain and from Saudi Arabia. In fact, and to me, many of the puns just went over my head. And it also went over people's heads. No one could grasp what he was talking about because he could not really relate to the audience. What gets laughed at in London may not, get laughed at in India or Saudi Arabia or Bahrain. Humor needs to be relatable to the audience. There are many other factors that we also need to consider when telling humor, such as, ethnicity, culture, education, professions, gender, age, and so on. You want your humor to be powerful, then you need to adapt, you need to refine, you need even to change your stories depending on the kind of audience you're talking to. I changed my stories when I gave something in Saudi Arabia and then I went to Dubai. I changed some of the stories because I felt that the audience over there may not relate to that punchline or to that story. Let me give you an example. If you are in my age and you go to a young audience, and you tell them like, oh, when 20 years or 25 years ago, I used to go out jogging and I used to hold my Walkman in my hand. Everybody's gonna look at you and say, a what? A Walkman? What the heck is a Walkman? No one is, if they are in their 20s or in their, say 80s, 20, 22, they will not understand what a Walkman is. A Walkman is for people of my age, right? So this is what I mean. When you have an audience, a young audience, you need to relate even the stories to their age. And that's one of the factors I mentioned: age, gender, professions, education, and things like this. So the clapping story, again, if at the beginning of my presentation, if I tell this to a non-Toastmaster audience, I have to refine it and put more context in it, because they may not relate to it, because they don't know about our rituals, that we do a lot of clapping in our meetings. So I need to do some refinement and put more context into it. Let me end those 5 with self-expression. Expression, it is about how you say things. What you say matters, but how you say it matters even more. See, many times humor does not come across because it's not understandable by the audience, or it's lifeless. It has no life in it. For example, when I tell the Windy Joke story, you've seen it, and I've told it. Okay, I act it out, as you have seen it. I have acted it out. I was animating my expressions. When I say 1 step forward, 1 step backward, and I was still inside the house. If you listen to it very well, in those few lines, there is emotion, there is emphasis, there is gestures, there's voice intonation, facial expression, and there's performance. All these elements make a big difference. They put life and energy into your story. Basically, you need to tell your story with feelings and enthusiasm. You also need to have a clear diction when you tell your story. You don't want someone in the audience to turn to his neighbor and ask, what did she say? What did he say? No, this you can't afford to happen in a humorous speech. You can't afford to happen, because if there is a punchline in there, it will go away. It will not produce any laughter. So you need the words to come out of your mouth clearly. If your audience miss a part or even miss a word, especially in the punchline or close to it, you will miss all laughter. So delivering your story the way it should be said, with animation, feelings, and enthusiasm, will make you on the stage. You will have presence. You will have presence, which is essential in leaving an impact on the audience. And of course, on the judges. In short, presence is about you filling and owning the stage. The bottom line is, your humor will go a long way if you spend sufficient time finding the best way to say your story with clear diction. I just want to highlight a few things before I come to some kind of a conclusion, or before we come to the question and answer session. Is when you, and I've seen it in Toastmasters, by the way, sometimes people go off by saying things that should not be said. These are the kinds of, sometimes they put down, there is a put down on some kind of, or some part of the audience. Okay, maybe they put down on the youth, they put down on people with certain figure and things like that. These are not good. You cannot use that. Again, offensive, hostile language, harsh language is not something you want to use. Sarcasm, or sometimes what you think is funny, that sarcasm may hurt other people in the audience. And the judges, they're paying attention, and they probably will cut down on your points. Of course, racial, ethnic, religious, off-color, stay away from these. And I believe it or not, I've seen it in Toastmasters, off-color things, in district speeches, for God's sake. For God's sake. This guy was talking about balls, billiard, and then he was referring to body parts or something like that. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And I told him, and I told his sister, I said, your brother, sorry. He was way, way off. That's not the type of humor you want to hear in a district championship. So if you want to tease anyone, by the way, it may be okay if you speak to that person first. Otherwise, stay away from that. Don't exclude any part of the audience. As I said, there is a portion of that audience that may not relate to you. Okay, so if that happens, you will lose that audience. You may not like lose points, but that audience I would say you have offended because you said something that they cannot really relate to whatsoever. All right. So avoid all of these things when you prepare, when you put on your humorous speeches. For now, I'll just leave some time for questions, and I think I should let me stop sharing. Is that okay? Yeah, I would stop sharing for a while before I come back to the conclusion. Okay. So we have maybe 5 minutes for questions.
Yeah.
Maybe 6.
Abdullah?
Yes, this is Lancy, I'm sure.
Yes. Abdullah, I remember, was it 2013 when you did this winning speech credit card?
No, Lancy,
Much
you're
earlier.
too old like me. It's much older than
earlier.
that. It's much older.
than that. Right.
Let's not reveal anything about our age, okay?
Yeah. So Abdullah, I just wanted to ask you, we all have a problem on trying to find out our subject, especially for humorists, correct? So what was your thought process for that winning speech credit? I mean, that was unbelievable.
Okay. You see, I always say be observant. Be observant of what's happening around you in your life, in the business life, at home, and places like. Because what happened at that time, it was early in the 2000s, by the way. Huh? Okay, we are that old, I guess. It was in the early 2000s, and it was at that time, I think, when we started. I think I started using credit cards in the 90s, but maybe it was that time also. Later in the 90s when I said, here honey, this is a credit card, this is American Express, you can just go and just buy things, and of course I'll pay. So naturally the thought was that, oh, this is a plastic card, oh, that's okay, I'll go and spend money here and there. It will be just I'm just gonna give them that plastic card. Okay, so this is when I thought, because when I really received that statement, and it was full of things. It was big. So many things that she bought. This what triggered actually that speech. Right. So when we are observant about what happens around our life, I think we can come up with so many subjects. And I believe even the doctor's speech, if you've seen it, it was also based on experiences with doctors. Okay, I hope there are no doctors here in the room today. Does that answer your question, Nancy?
Yeah. Thanks, Abdullah. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
There's a
Was
question in the chat box which says, can you please share 3-4 more specific examples of how you wrote a joke?
Oh, this needs a workshop, for God's sake. 3 or 4 examples. This needs a workshop. I had 2 slides about how to create humor, but I thought we will not have time to do that. If you remember the process I talked about, that process, you have something on the right side. These are the forms of humor. I spoke about surprise. I spoke about exaggeration, the aha, and the ha-ha. Okay, all these kind of things are elements. To create a joke, it has to be based on your story. It has to flow with your story. Okay, so if it doesn't follow or flow with your story, it will be just like a cut and paste. But as I said, I don't think there is we have room or we have time to speak about the creation process. I'd rather leave that for some other time. I'm sorry about that.
Abdullah, if I may, I guess I want
Sure.
to thank you. I think when you're discussing about the approach to humor, especially the setup and then a different punchline, I think it just reminded me of Mohammad Katani and how he beautifully crafted that story about smoking and cancer. And then everyone got it surprised by everyone. So I think that was a really interesting. Do you see that being applicable across most of the speeches? Is this like a universal model that people usually do? Or are there like more refined versions, advanced version of these as well?
I'm sorry, could you say your last part?
No,
Do
I'm
I
just
see it
wondering,
right?
is this the most universal model that every humorous speaker usually applies to? Because there's a setup and a punchline and then the different parts that you discuss about. Or are there like more advanced version that we can get training on as well?
I would say this is the most basic, and I think it works everywhere if it's very well crafted, and he crafted it very well, I thought. Okay, but you have to be mindful. Okay, you have a Toastmasters audience, okay, and they're coming from all over the place. So you've got to find a common denominator. You've got to find a story that resonates with everyone in the room. When you're talking, maybe there are 800 people in there, maybe more sometimes. Okay, and they're coming from all different cultures, different countries, different educational backgrounds, and all of that. So you've really got to be on top of your material, that it will not be off for some people in the audience. That's what I say. But I thought, yeah, he did a very good job, because smoking is very universal, and he picked a very good topic to start with.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anyone else? I think we are on the top of the hour. If there are no more questions, I can go back just to summarize. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, let me go back very quickly. Share screen and here. Okay. All right. So okay, so here we were coming to the end of the presentation. I just want to show you again that the summary itself of what we've talked about. We've talked about that process, and there are forms of humor on one side, and we talked about mismatch, surprise, and exaggeration. We talked about the power elements, the setup, the punchline, timing, audience, and self-expression. And we also had that process itself of humor. I think this is very crucial. It's extremely important that we understand this. Have we set up that story very well? Okay. Do we have a swift and a quick, sharp turn in that story? Do we have a nudge, a good nudge that really pushes it, triggers it in there, or not? So maybe this chart here really answers many of the questions, probably some of the questions that you have asked me here tonight. So it is this summary here. And I believe this is where we are. And okay, so what I was going to say, like at the end, if I'm from my own experience, if you take the basics I just covered here, practice them, I guarantee that your humor will go a long way. But you just have to be patient. That's the trouble with people. They want to go into a humorous speech contest the first time, and they expect themselves to be like a #1 winner. It doesn't work like this unless you are extremely very funny, and you're one of those who are born with funny bones. Okay, well, you got to be patient and trust in the process. So let me just end with this story that I normally use when I give humorous workshops. I was taking this history test years back, when I was in college, and it was a true or false test. And when I looked at the question, I thought to myself, I had no idea whatsoever where the questions came from. It was like an alien put the questions. So I couldn't even think what to do. I picked up, a coin from my pocket, and I said, okay, if it's head, then it's true. And if it lands at tail, then I'll mark it as false. So I picked up the coin and I started to flip the coin, flip the coin, flip the coin. So the instructor, he saw me doing this, and he came to me and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm solving the exam questions." He kind of smiled, shrugged his shoulder, and left me alone. But 5 minutes before the end of the exam, I picked up the coin again and I started to flip the coin, and flip the coin. He saw me and he came again rushing and he said, "Okay, so what is it this time?" I said, "I'm double checking my answers." So, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to end with this. And if there are no further questions, I leave the floor back to you, Meenakshi.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insights. Thank you for making this session a blend of wit, wisdom, and wonderful laughter. Thank you, Abdullah.
You're most welcome.
And thank you to the audience for choosing to spend your Friday night with us with this educational session. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to our PQD, Tanjan.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi. And these 2 hours that the members in the virtual platform spent on the listening to the keynotes delivered by Deepak, Justin, and Abdullah was truly was very insightful, and there were a lot of takeaways. And this D98H is turning out to be a learning avenue for many of the members present. And I hope that the folks that were listening to the sessions carefully and pertinently have made their notes, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the contest season is going to turn up, and let's see who's going to emerge as the champion of humorous as well as evaluation. Thank you so much, Abdullah. Thank you so much, DJ.
Thank you.
For your
All the
time.
best to you. All the best to you all.
Really, I was listening to it throughout, and they were really, really informative and insightful. Thank you so much. And with this, we come to the end of the D98 Edge session 3. So the next session 4 is on 15th September. So D98 Edge sessions are going to be on every month of the 15th and the 30th. So remember these dates, 15th and the 30th. So the next session is 15th of September. We have a session which is going to speak about conversions that convert. It's focusing more on the renewables and the reasoning of being a part of Toastmaster. We already have a keynote speaker for that. You will come to know by next week. Thank you so much. The meeting now comes to a close.